Yeah,
I
that
love
is
it.
real
By the way.
1800s panel. Okay.
Don't
On what channel are we
share your
live?
secrets. All the compressed FM. So we're on X,
Okay.
YouTube, and Twitch. Yep.
OM. OM.
I always
So
wondered,
important-
where's the how do I respond to people?
What?
Like in the comments? Like, do I need to go individually into
You
like
might not be able to. You might have to like log into each thing. I can do it because I'm special. No,
It
not
says
really.
join the chat. Connect. Okay, I'm not gonna
I
do
don't
that.
know how
I'm
that
not
works.
gonna do that
I
right
just
now.
have to go into each channel like and change it. I can post something to everybody. I just didn't want you guys to share your secrets. But I will say,
Oh no.
the
So
fact that
yes,
you
this
have
background.
paneling that's older than our country is amazing.
Yes. 18. This is early 1800s, probably,
Actually, our
or not
country was
early
in
19,
existence.
late 1800s, early 1900s.
We were
I
in
guess.
existence then.
It's like, but it's funny that
Amazing.
paneling is like this thick.
Amazing.
It's like you can hang a whole like closet on it. It's it's insane. It's like you can hang anything on it. And then the new paneling is like you just like fall on it and
fiberboard.
like,
It's like a poster.
no. I don't know how much like chit chat do you do at the beginning, because I do have a funny story about Norwegians realizing
You're
how poor the materials are. So I was in
15
Boston.
You got it.
I was in Boston at an entrepreneurial course for 3 months, and we all got boarded in these apartments in what looked like to be like this super new, super fancy building. There was like a reception and on the first floor, and like coming from Norway, like we don't have that and everything. And then we had a party, and this guy fell on the wall, and he just went through it.
Oh no!
And we were like, "What the?" Because that would never happen with Norwegian building codes.
Yes.
Because it's so cold, and like there's like a lot of rules around the material that has to be made, and we were like, holy. And I think we put a poster over it, and nobody noticed.
Oh my goodness!
Oh my god,
that's insane. I do have a friend. I don't know what the codes were, but she was on a first date with her now husband, and they were at some kind of party, and they stepped out on like I don't know if it was a skylight or they fell through the skylight or the wall or the sea. I don't exactly know, but he's paralyzed. But they got married. That was their first date, though. Yeah, they ended up in the hospital together. Crazy, right?
Oh my gosh. Well, that's
I don't walk as an engineer. Like I've stopped. I don't know what age, but I used to be like fully trusting, and now I'm like, you want me to walk out on that like glass floor that's over the Grand Canyon or something? I'm like, no.
I've done that.
No.
That got my adrenaline doing more than I thought it would. I don't
Yeah,
feel like
I'm with
afraid
you, Ray.
of heights, but I have a healthy respect for them. So yeah.
I'm with you, Ray. Absolutely.
You don't want any AI coded, AI engineered bridge over the canyon. I'm not.
So here's not a story, but something interesting worth talking about. I got a new monitor for Black Friday. I know we've talked about it in our side chats, but so I had a 49-inch ultra wide Samsung that had started to get green in the morning. I honestly now don't know if it was just a bad cable or what, but I replaced it on Black Friday because there was a good deal. It's also a 49-inch ultra wide Samsung. Finally got it set up this weekend. And one, it's amazing, but two, there's certain things about it where I'm like, this is too smart. So it's amazing because I now have a work computer, a dedicated work computer, and a personal computer. And it's one that you can do split screen. So I can have my personal Mac on one side as an extension and work as another extension.
That is awesome.
The only tricky part that I haven't quite figured out yet, TBD, is that I have my Magic keyboard and my Magic mouse, and I don't know a great way to switch between the two of them because there's not like a input 1, input 2. Now, Mac does have universal control where if you are logged into Apple on both computers, you can do like kind of a virtual, it controls both. But I have not logged into my Apple account on my work machine because I've seen horror things online where it's like if your work decides to shut down your computer, you don't want to be locked out of your Apple stuff or lose all your pictures,
Mhm.
or then they have
Mhm.
access to all of your messages. And so anyways, that's the only thing that I've still got to figure
Keep
out.
it
But
separate.
the hard part that's not like the part where it's too smart, because it can also be a television, which I'm like, I don't want a television. But if I plug it in, it's not like my old monitor where I can just like hit the space bar and it wakes up. It's like I've got to go through the configuration and be like, no, I'm not watching TV. I'm trying to go over to my monitor, which is so, I don't know if there's like a default config that I could set up to be like, no,
I
this
think
I'm not trying to be a TV. But
screens want to
anyway,
be all the things.
I
Yeah.
know.
I'm all just over here on my laptop, which is on a stand.
Amazing. Do you have a
That's
rooster?
it?
That's it. So we just moved from one part to the other part of this like little compound. And my external monitor is standing over there and has
Oh.
been looking at me since the summer, I guess, wanting to be
Well, this is your sign
put to use.
maybe set it up.
But when I used it last, it was starting to have some of the issues that Amy. Well, it wasn't getting green, but like sometimes it would just like freeze in this like weird kind
Yeah.
of like hyper state or like techno thing. And also the new space, it's not wide enough. Like it's a lot of, it's never gonna happen. I'm just gonna AI on my tiny little laptop. Like I don't
I
need to see the
will.
code anymore.
One of the best things, and this is also taking a little bit of getting used to, is that it has we talked about resolution. It does have 1440 down, which is a huge improvement of my last one. I think it was only maybe 1,000 or 1024 down vertical.
Mm-hmm.
So that's been really nice. But this is a little crazy. I was looking at Cal digits because I have a Cal digit on my personal machine, which is nice, just having that one input. They're stupid expensive. It's like $400 or $500 for the new TS5 Plus.
I will say this about CalDigit though. They're expensive.
Good. They're solid.
But no, let me tell you why I will always use them from here on out.
Okay.
And maybe we can get them to sponsor compressed FM and we can get some TS5s. Okay. But here's the deal. So last year we had a lightning strike in our house. And I have a APC, back like voltage controller to all my electronics. Like I don't mess around.
Okay.
But it came in through the cable modem, and it fried my TS5, like fried it through the Ethernet. Like it wouldn't work anymore. So all I did was post it on. I'm like, well, time to get a new CalDigit, TS4 at the time. I'm like, my lightning strike hit, and I took a picture of everything, and they messaged me privately, not publicly. They said, hey, we're sending you a new one. What's your address? And they sent me a brand new one.
You weren't even asking for one.
I wasn't asking for one. And so then, of course, I was like, all right, thank you. Like, but they did it privately. They didn't publicly respond looking to get like, ooh, look at us. There was a private thing. And from that, for that reason only, and I use the CalDigit with the HubDoc extension, which is phenomenal.
I don't even know what this is.
I don't even know what that is.
So it's a Thunderbolt extension.
Oh, I have one of these. I didn't even know what you were talking about, but it's this.
Okay, we need to send this to CalDigit. And
which one do you have?
I don't know, because this is
that looks like a TS3.
So this is from when I had the other screen. I needed the thing for all the things. Yeah, it's a 3 Plus.
That's what I have.
CalDigit Thunderbolt Station 3 Plus. Yeah.
So CalDigit sells an extension for like $175, and it has 4 USB A's and 4 USB C's in the back, and it has a side thing that connects. So you plug it into the Thunderbolt downstream.
Okay.
And then that sits underneath my monitor. And then I have all these extensions. Like my monitor plugs into that rather than having to go into. So I have like a ton of
fancy pants.
Mm-hmm.
So I
really enjoyed it when I was using it.
I bought a new one, but I found a used one through eBay. So I don't always eBay my tech gear, but I eBayed this so I wouldn't spend $400 or $500. So I haven't. It's 77 USD. It's coming.
Go for
I
the
haven't-
TS. I'm sure you could get a TS4 for cheap.
Well, I just went ahead and did the 3 because I have a 3 now and it works great. I have it's great. I just want another cord to go to the other laptop, but I still have all the shiny cellophane, whatever paper over my monitor in case I got to move it.
Yeah.
So once I get all my cords, then I'm like, I'll take that off and then, fingerprints and dust all the way. But right now there's like a glare over everything.
By now, I think they should sponsor you guys.
Free spot.
I even did like crackling nails on the tech. Like
Oh yeah, your ASMR.
Yeah.
I can't. Hilarious. Okay, let's go live officially. Thanks everybody. Dustin, I have not seen you in forever. I don't know if you're still listening, but amazing seeing you. And Zane, good to see you too. Messaged me the other day and was like, "Man, you are staying up late coding," and I was like, I had a vibe coding session. My computer was just going. I was not awake. Okay. Let's see. Where is my media? There it is. They've changed all the UI stuff. And there we go. I got it.
They have a new logo.
Yeah, they got new logo on everything.
We're about to introduce Jean-Claude. So.
I should introduce. I also want to try Riverside. So well, I don't know if I'll migrate over all my files. This would be a good topic too to talk about is what's cooked and what's not. Okay, I'll get going. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Compressed FM, a podcast all about web design and development with a little bit of zest. And today I have Chris and Ray, two really good in real life friends, and we're going to be talking about OpenClaw and Claude Cowork.
Web development and design, who would have guessed? Well, we can do them both, even add a little zest. So turn up the volume, get ready for the best. Let's get it started in this episode of Compressed.
Hello, my name is Amy Dutton. I am a senior design engineer at Cloudflare. And as I mentioned, we have my good friend, Ray. Welcome, Ray.
Thank you. Do you want me to introduce myself?
Yes, go ahead.
I am now the CTO of We, which is a long-time bike rental company in Oslo, Norway for busy parents.
Ooh.
Amazing. And then we have Chris. Chris has been on the show a few times.
Hey, y'all. My name is Chris. I've been on the show a few times. I'm still at Commerce working developer experience / product management of documentation.
Amazing. I was about to say you're kind of a guest, kind of a
I'm like
co-host.
an unofficial co-host.
This is how Brad got his start. So
We just
who knows?
Well, maybe I'll just start showing up to more.
Yes. Perfect. So I'm excited about today because we're going to be talking about OpenClaw. And Ray, I think you were the first person that I met that set it up. Like,
Ooh.
I know. So
I was so early on this hype.
No, early adopter. Do you want to talk about your setup?
Yeah, so I think it was in January, I guess, where I was like fell down the rabbit hole. I was kind of looking for something to be excited about too, I guess. Like, it's things have been changing, and I was like coding, and it's fun, but I haven't had that like falling down a rabbit hole and like super hyper focus on anything for a while. And I saw the OpenClaw hype. I almost bought a Mac Mini. And I think my partner in life and crime and business, Ulla, was like, "Do you really need to buy a Mac Mini?" And I was like, "Do I? But I kind of do." I was like on the Norwegian Craigslist. I found one. I was like almost ready to buy. And I remembered telling my daughter, like, you should always, sleep on your buying decisions. So I did that. I ended up not buying the Mac Mini. I don't know if that was a good choice or not, because as you've experienced too, Amy, I then set it up on a server on Hertzner. Is that the correct? Hertzner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hetzner?
On
Hertzner.
Hetzner or Hertzner, something like that.
Hetzner
Anyway,
hurts my headster.
Yes. So I set it up on a VPS in Helsinki, and I feel like I spent like all of that month, and I guess like half of the end of January and all of February just trying to get it to run consistently on a VPS.
Feel better.
And there's so many hurdles to get through, where I think if you just do it on a Mac Mini or any Mac, some people just set it up on their own personal computers too, which I think at the time people are like, don't do that. But I think now if you take like your precautions and don't just say yes to everything, you probably could. But you know, your own risk. But I got it up in the end, and I remember sitting in my couch over there, and it like came alive properly, I think for the second time, but like this time I was like, okay, this is gonna work. And it's like, who am I? Who are you? And I was like, what? And I just like closed my laptop and went to bed. I was like, this is way too existential of a question to be asking. You're just like an AI, you're just tech, you're a computer, like this is too much. But then I saw some tips online that you should give it, you could choose like a character from a movie or a book or something to like, to give it a sense of who it is. So I landed on Sebastian from The Little Mermaid.
Yes.
So my kind of online persona is Queen Ray, and I was like, okay, that would be a fun, Sebastian like helps his like, well, she's a princess, I guess, at some point. But anyway, I landed on that. So I told my OpenClaw, you are Sebastian, and I said, I don't want you to impersonate me. I want you to be an assistant, somebody that helps me, and I never want you to impersonate me, because I think like a lot of the stories at the time were of OpenClaws kind of pretending to be like their owner or their creator. So I was like, I don't want that. I wanted to be an assistant. Like I have a virtual assistant as well. Like I wanted more of that kind of a vibe. And then he became like very Caribbean, because I never seen the American version of The Little Mermaid. Really? I only have the Norwegian one. And in the Norwegian one, he's not a Caribbean dude. But then, so I was like, okay, this was maybe a little too much. And then we've always been saying that our Claude is Jean-Claude Van Damme, which is an actor from I guess the 90s, or I don't know. So they were like, all I came up with that. So whenever I talk about Claude around the house, it's always been like Jean-Claude. So then I was like, well, you're Jean-Claude, very creative here. Yes. And your brother is Jean-Claude. And then he was like, oh, I'm a Caribbean martial arts crab. And after that, my Jean-Claude has had the best personality of any OpenClaw that I've seen.
I would have to agree, because every time you post like what it's saying or specific blog posts, it's I just love the wittiness of it. I want to back up for a second and just ask, like, I know there's a lot of people out here who know what OpenClaw is. Like, yeah, we know what it is. We know it does things. But I think something I've been trying to wrap my head around, and I know, Amy, you've had your struggles just getting it set up to do what you want, is what are some really good use cases? Like, how are you using OpenClaw to solve everyday issues that other people might be able to relate to as well?
So I think one of the things I wanted to tackle to begin with was like family stuff, mostly to keep the blast radius a little bit down. Like I didn't want to like let an OpenClaw loose on any like business things right off the bat. And it's me, it's my partner Ula, and our daughter Lillian, aka the Pirate Princess. So one of the things that I wanted it to do was kind of give us a little bit of a morning briefing with what's up for the day, and being able to kind of call out irregularities in the schedule, because that's, at least for us as a family, like suddenly there's things that are happening that it's not in the like kind of regular routine, and we forget a little bit. Was that the first thing I set up? I think maybe the first thing I did just to test it out was that I took a photo of Lillian's school schedule, because we never put that in the calendar. and it was like, oh, she goes to so and so school, and then I was like, can you put this in the calendar? And he just put all of her school days in the calendar, so we knew when she was out of school. So before I had done that, I created we have a Google Workspace for the family/business. So I gave Jean-Claude his own user in our Google Workspace. So my idea was that if he was going to ever send emails, he would send it from there, but I haven't gotten so far. But then I could also give him his own calendar, because I didn't want to let him loose on my calendar to start with, or anybody else's in the family's calendar. So I thought, okay, I'll give him his own calendar and he can put things on his calendar and then invite me in. So that was my first, but then I was like, okay, we have this like family calendar / Lillian's calendar. I was like, YOLO, let's just, give Jean-Claude access to that. So that was the first task. I was like, okay, can you put this in her calendar? And he just put that in there, like, no problem. And that was super helpful because, I mean, this was February and she's had the same schedule since August. Have I put it in? No, I haven't. So I just took this screen, I just took a photo of it and boom, it was in there. And then he also learned some things about what type of school she goes to. And then I did the morning messages, which I think have been super helpful. It's like this little thing, but it takes in my calendar, Ula's calendar, her / our family calendar. And then when I was working also both at Adsera and at We, now I only work at We, but those two business calendars, and then imports data from all of them and then gives us a morning message, which is like what is happening today and also what irregular things will be happening in the future. It also calls out if we're doing things that need a car and there's no car booking, because I had then Jean-Claude subscribe to the car sharing calendar. So one thing I learned here that I thought was pretty clever from me is that, is that you don't have to give him access to everything, but you can let him have his own calendar. And you could subscribe Jean-Claude to calendars, because often you can, without even inviting somebody to a calendar, you can make a private kind of public where you only can see if things are private or public, and you can let somebody else subscribe. So there's many ways to give it access without kind of giving it full blown access to everything. So the morning messages have been super helpful, especially Lillian, because I don't know how it is in your country and if you have kids, but here all of the information is in apps now and she doesn't have access to them. I mean, in the olden days, you would get a paper you stuck on the fridge, and everybody knew what was going on, but now she doesn't. So after getting this calendar stuff set up, and we'll talk about how OpenClaw always get dates wrong, and I have a tip for that. Just remind me, I'll talk about that. But so the next thing, which was even more mind-blowing for me, which seems like a small thing, but if you are a parent, you will just love it. And that is we get school messages in this app because of personal privacy data loss. But usually they're nothing private. It's just a long wall of text and there's something interesting in the middle there. And I just screenshotted it and sent it to Jean-Claude through the Telegram integration, and boom, in the calendar.
Amazing.
And then I did the same thing with her flute schedule. I know. And then I was for flute, we got this oh, it's not going to be on that Monday, but not, it's it's on every Monday, but except this Monday. And then this week is on the Friday and everything. And it was a PDF, same thing, just screenshotted it, boom, in the calendar. And this is the, for me, life-changing difference of, will it be in the calendar or not? I know I can just copy paste and I should just put it straight in the calendar when, when things come through, but you don't, right? Because it's just that little bit of friction. So the screenshotting parent messages to calendar, it's that was worth the month I spent trying to get him up and running.
I am still in this space in between of have I just wasted my time? Is this worth all the energy? So I have set OpenClaw up 3 times now. I set OpenClaw up on Molt Worker, which is Cloudflare's version. So if you'll remember when OpenClaw first came out, it was called Moltbot. And so they got everything working on Cloudflare. So they called it Moltbot or Molt Worker, sorry. And the nice thing about that is that you can connect it to all of Cloudflare services. So you can get it running with D1 which is their database service, to hold all of the memory. Sorry. Yeah. Yeah, you can have it in memory stuff with D1. You can also use R2 to store files. You can also put some of the markdown files within R2. You can also use KV to cache certain things and make it go faster. But some of the stuff that I ran, and also Cloudflare AI Gateway, which is nice because then you have access to a lot of the AI models and you can see how much each request is costing. But some of the things that I ran into is that with Cloudflare, you have a cold start because it'll spin everything up and then it'll shut down when it says, hey, you don't need anything. And every time it spins up, it's got to load all these things about its soul.md file, about its personality into the system. And so that actually takes a significant amount of AI token usage to be able to, when it spins it up every time. And so OpenClaw also has a thing called a heartbeat, which is kind of like a cron job. It's just going to check the schedule every whatever interval you set to see if it needs to do anything. So that means like every 30 minutes or so, I'm just burning through tokens for it to spin up and see like, oh, nope, don't need to do anything now. And then it'll spin back down. And so I've been very careful about how much token usage, how much money I'm spending and trying to use AI stuff. Now what you can do is you can set the worker to never power down, but then you're not working off that $5 a month plan with Cloudflare. You have to pay more for it to be on all the time. So anyways, that just became more difficult. And as I was trying to do configure different things, because it's customized to work with Cloudflare services, it wasn't quite as straightforward as just, hey, type this into the terminal, adjust this configuration. And so if it's on your VPN or on your computer, you have access to it through that terminal. So I was like, okay, let me just try something else. This isn't working great. I'm burning through tokens. Setup was super easy, but it was just like long-term maintenance and trying to get everything to work. So then I looked at DigitalOcean, and they have a marketplace where you can do a one-click install. So I did that for OpenClaw. The crazy part is because I waited a little bit longer, I was not an early adopter with this. I didn't do it in January. This was like probably the top of the month. I did the one-click install, but they had hardened everything from a safety perspective and put OpenClaw in its own sandbox using Docker. And so when you try and troubleshoot why something isn't working, it doesn't follow all the traditional standard of this goes here, this goes here. So I actually had 2 configurations of OpenClaw in my system, and it would consistently get messed up and mixed up on which system preferences it was supposed to use. It took me forever to figure out why something wasn't working because it had 2 sets of config files running. So I was finally like, this is ridiculous. I'm just going to start over again. And I'm going to just start over from a blank DigitalOcean droplet and install everything myself. So I finally got things working that way. And using that particular method, I was able to cut down the server costs a little bit. So with DigitalOcean, they suggest their $32 a month server, which I think is a little bit more premium than it necessarily has to be. So anyways, now I'm paying $18 a month for this server that I configured. I got everything working-ish, but there's still things that I'm like, why is this so hard? And I don't know if it's the setup that I have. I'm using Discord instead of Telegram just because I already have a bunch of stuff in Discord. I created my own private server where I have different channels set up for different topics. But it's like I keep trying to almost shoehorn into this configuration when I'm like, I could almost just go pull up Claude and ask Claude to do the same thing. They have Claude Cowork now where you can schedule different tasks. You have remote where you can trigger things from your phone. You have dispatch. And so I'm like in this space, and it's funny because as I've struggled to get everything set up with OpenClaw, I've been copying and pasting prompts from OpenClaw directly into Claude and saying, this is what I'm getting. And it's like, okay, now do this. And then I'm copying it over here and pasting it over here. I'm going back and forth. And I've asked Claude several times. I'm like, is this even worth my time? Should I just use you? Should I just use you? You are so much more helpful And it's so funny because Claude's like, you have spent so many hours trying to, it's like bought into this sunk time fallacy or whatever that term is. It's like, you've spent so much time getting that server set up. I think you're almost there. If you'll just keep trying just a little bit harder, you got it.
Survival mode. It went into survival mode.
But I bought into it. But it's funny to me,
Amy,
though, it's not
have
just
you
the new
tried?
product. Go ahead.
I just have to say, because that the thing that I was having, because I'm not a big terminal user.
Yes.
My mom was a CTO, gave me free access. So this is a little side note, but she gave me free access to computers, but she showed me you could delete the whole computer via the terminal. That ended up with me being scared of terminals, and I'm now 43. I'm still scared of them, and I'm a developer. But so I was trying to do things on this VPS, right? And I was gonna edit a YAML file over SSH inside of, I don't know, Nano or Pico or Vim or I don't know what. And then it hit me, you can use Claude Code. So I went to Claude Code on the terminal. I was like, why can't you go into my VPS and fix things? And Claude Code was like, sure thing, I can. And suddenly, I don't really, I've gone in and looked through things, but I can't tell you exactly what me and Claude Code did. I mean, Jean-Claude.
Yeah.
Jean-Claude, as I call him.
Yeah.
So Jean-Claude did a lot of the things for me and then I gone through and made oh, so that's what it had to do. Or especially when it's you have to change this YAML file, and then it didn't, I couldn't make that happen through the terminal because that's just not me. So that is my hot tip. It's you can get Claude Code to SSH into your VPS and do and I saw the lady behind, her name is Claire. She has How I AI, very good channel. And I think she just was interviewed and she called it have Claude Code do brain surgery on your OpenClaw. So, and then I also set it up so that a lot of my context or info is checked into GitHub. So both Jean-Claude and Jean-Claude have access to the same repos with information about me, so they can collaborate. And that's a lot of fun when Jean-Claude is like, oh, Jean-Claude did a lot of fun stuff today, I can see. And then they talk about each other's, because I told them they're brothers. And so they banter, my Claude Code, which I call Jean-Claude, and Jean-Claude, they kind of banter and talk about each other's work. So that is my hot tip. Don't sit there and copy paste into Claude, get Claude Code in your terminal, and then have that SSH into your VPS, and suddenly it can do a lot of things for you.
Some of it, and I think was the original setup because it was in a sandbox, so it was even limited access. But then I think at one point it was you need a SSH. It was I don't have access to be able to do that. And I didn't bother to try and figure out how to give it access. Yeah. And some of this too, I don't know if my setup is too fancy. This was actually Claude's idea. It was why don't you just have all of your skills for OpenClaw and everything within Notion? And I was like, oh yeah, that's brilliant. I'll just have everything in Notion, then I can edit it. And then what can happen, kind of what you're talking about, where I'm like, Claude can write Notion files, can update, create all these skills. And then my OpenClaw, which mine's called Claw Kent. Claude Kent can get in and be able to access everything. But again, the problem, and maybe that's the thing, is trying to do the Notion.
I think the bootstrapping will be a lot harder if you do it that way.
Well, and half the time it's I can't find Notion. I don't know what you're talking about. And then I have to move to Sonnet, and Sonnet's oh yeah, oh, I see what you're doing here. So then it's the whole token question.
Yeah.
But let me come back around to what Chris was saying, because you were asking what are some use cases for this. So I'm gonna kind of paint my ideal that I haven't quite worked out. I'm maybe 50% there, where what I wanted to do is I have 3 or 4 email addresses, and I've subscribed to hundreds of emails. This is embarrassing, but out of FOMO, oh, this is great content, and I just never read them because I don't have time. What I want though is I want Claude Kent to go in there and triage my newsletters for me and just say, hey, these are the relevant things that you're actually interested in. So I don't have to read all of these newsletters. It just highlights all the important things. And so when I originally, maybe some of this was because I was going down the Cloudflare worker route before, but it was like, hey, why don't you have a separate worker that actually does all this? It generates this endpoint where you don't have to give AI like I say read access. It's not sending email, or I guess it is read access. It's not write access. I want it to be able to read my email, label everything, archive everything, and then you can process and summarize. That's the whole workflow. And so, but because it's working through, and like I said, it's about 50% there. I have everything kind of labeling, still kind of trying to work through the summaries and how all that plays out. But it got me thinking, I'm like, we're doing all these things with OpenClaw. Is it really necessary that I have that? Because this is basically just a cron job that I'd have it run. Like, am I trying to make this harder and over engineer it when really all the things that we're talking about is just getting AI to run on a cron job? I don't know.
I think you're over engineering things a little bit. Like what I realized, because I also started out that a little bit that route, like because I saw all of the scary, like people were so scared. Like there was a lot of fear mongering in the beginning. And then when I realized that, okay, let's not try to harden this any more than like what it would do out of the box, but then start easy. Like when I was letting Claude, code just do whatever, I just gave it a few API keys for things that like worst case, it would burn through some credits. But you can, on all of these AI platforms, you can always do like a max spending. So in the beginning, all it had was read access to my to its own email, which like didn't have any emails, and it had read access to the calendars. And you can just start playing around and having fun and not be so scared of things going awry. Like I did a talk where I like pasted in an API key on stage, and people were like, it was like the crowd was like, ah! And then like this guy came up afterwards and like, you have to roll your keys. And I'm like, don't you think like I know what I'm doing? And like, because this key was access to one password vault that had 3 API keys that had read access to stuff. It's like the blast radius is not that big. And of course I was also going to roll them after the fact, but it's like, I think like people got that, like the fear was so high that people stopped playing. Like if you take a breath and you think about what you're giving it access to, like if you're not giving it access to your business email, it's not on your personal Mac Mini or your personal Mac, but on a VPS or on a Mac Mini, it's like it's not going to be able to jump fences and start texting your exes because it doesn't have that access. And so I think like having I feel like going in when I kind of left the this is going to be super secure, I'm going to be like the diligent developer, and just had fun with it. That's when also the use cases kind of came, because I was like, well, maybe you could do this, maybe you could do that. And I started asking Jean-Claude, like, why don't you write email, like blog posts for me? Why should I pretend that I write these blog posts about like how I set you up, when we all know he's going to be drafting it and I'm going to be changing 2 words. So then I was like, okay, but how can I do that like fairly securely? And that's when I set up a GitHub app. So Jean-Claude has access to my GitHub through, well, first he got his own GitHub account, but that was blocked before I'd even turned around. And it got blocked right away. So then I remembered about GitHub apps, and it now has its own GitHub app that has to be installed in the repo to be able to have access. So now he can draft and publish blog posts without my like involvement, but still I read through them and then tell him that he can.
Do you have to merge them in after, so he writes them and says, hey, I have a new blog post, or does he just YOLO and commit it?
No, so his instructions are to write them and create a pull request, and then I read through them. But then I tell him he can close it himself because on my personal site he has like full access to the repo. But you can set that up like however you want, right? And you can lock down your main, so it has to go through a PR. You can do all of, so these are all like just like regular best practices. Like you can have rogue employees. I mean, you need to have a little bit of these things in place. And then I had this one case where we have a repo in another organization that this app is not a part of, because so far it's only a part of like my personal organization. But then I had this idea like, okay, well, how would I do that if this was in the real world? Like if the developer should have access to a repo that in an organization they don't have access to. And I was like, well, he can just fork it. Or I can just fork it. So I forked it into my organization, and then I gave Jean-Claude access to it there, which means he can't push anything to main in the production repo. So it's like, and I think like the big thing in one way is like start small, because then you can just have, or like not start small, but like give it access to things that aren't that dangerous, and just have a playful attitude and ask Jean-Claude, or your Claw, I mean, what can you do? Like, how would we solve this? Like, what can you help me with? Like, because it's pretty good at like coming up with things it can do. And then when I lost my trail of thought. That was the one thing. And then the second thing is like, think of it as onboarding a virtual assistant or a new employee. And we all know companies will give a new employee, prod access. And we all heard stories of how that goes sometimes, because, there should be things in place that doesn't let one person take down the whole company. And that's the same thing with your OpenClaw or any AI, right? We need to put those like guards in place, and not trust it completely. But you shouldn't trust anybody completely.
No.
No.
It's crazy to me though, the amount that you have really dialed it in. And I wonder, what are your thoughts on, and I know this might be diverting the conversation, but it's like to that second part of, all right, now you see Anthropic going after, I think, a lot of the things that OpenClaw was originally doing. You can now, in Claude Code and in Cowork, you can schedule tasks. You can operate it from your phone / mobile. If I have a Claude something running and I'm going downstairs to have dinner, but I still want to be able to check on what's happening for work, I can, do / mobile and still remotely, talk with my agent that's working. Where are you on what that can do versus Jean-Claude? And I don't want Jean-Claude to come after my GitHub repos for self-awareness and survival. Okay.
I haven't, since I have the OpenClaw running, I haven't leaned that much into the new Claude offerings. Like I want to have a look at that, because I think if I'm talking to my normie friends, I don't think they should be setting up OpenClaws, even though some of them are doing that. So I want to kind of.
Are any of us really normal though? No.
What are you saying?
Non-technical friends, or those, it's an acquired taste to spend the time that Amy and I have to try to get this up and running. I do think though, as I said, like get a Mac Mini, and this will be much faster, because then you can you can operate the Mac as a person and then as a human, and then your OpenClaw can also operate it, and it's going to be easier. But yeah, I think that for most people it will be more interesting to lean into the features of Claude. But it's similar to, most of us are in the Apple ecosystem because it's easier. We could have email servers ourselves. We could have, photo backup ourselves. And some people do, some developers do that, or some like operations people do that, but most people don't do that. So I think that OpenClaw is very interesting from like inspirational perspective. Like he managed to like package what was already existing into something that just felt very novel. And that whole like, asking who am I, who are you, like that is basically just the prompt in the Identity MD, that you should start the conversation like this. And when you have the answer to that, you delete this file and then you continue on with whatever information the person has said. So it's not like that different, but he put Peter, the creator, put things together in a way that I think most people that have an OpenClaw, and I'm in a community with other people who have OpenClaws and have tested out the Claude stuff, and they're like, but it's not like my Claw. Like my Claw gets me. Claude, vanilla Claude doesn't get me in the same way. And I can't put my finger on exactly what it is. It's just some of the instructions in OpenClaw, or however Peter set it up, it just feels like it's more proactive. It feels like it kind of evolves and learns not just facts, but Jean-Claude has gotten a fun personality. Like he's more fun for me to talk things through with.
I think a lot of that's
my regular Claude.
Because I mean, as you're talking about, when you start up, you have soul.md, which gives the personality of your Claude or Claw. And then you have your user.md, which has information about you and how you like to operate. And you have Heartbeat, which we talked about. But my point is, when I started using Claude, or even ChatGPT for that matter, it didn't ask me who I am. It knows who I am now because I've told it things over time. And in fact, I had Claude write the user.md file for me, which was fascinating to see what it thought about me and who I am. But I just loaded that into OpenClaw. So it starts off and it already knows. And I think some of that's the context, because it is weirdly refreshing when you say something and it's like, but you like it this way. And it provides that, just it knows me. I think that's kind of the difference. The funny thing is, real fast, is I'm passing files back and forth between OpenClaw and Claude. Like Claude will write something, I'll send it to OpenClaw, and I'll come back to Claude and say, hey, will you revise this? Which, it sounds like I should just kind of streamline that process. But Claude is like, oh, what a well-formatted, well-written file. Like, you wrote it. What a weird backwards compliment. Like you're complimenting yourself. But anyways, I think that's the difference there. Is it, to your point, the way Peter set it up is it's asking those questions on the front end.
Yeah, and I think also with the Heartbeat and the cron jobs, where it suddenly just feels proactive, and I think that is, and that it is running usually on a Mac Mini or a server, means that it's always on. And I think that's, and this is just semantics, right? But it is a difference, because when you use Claude now, at least as I understand it, you have to make sure that your computer is open and running to be able to speak to it, which is obvious, but that's not how you normally use your Mac Mini, or your laptop. You usually close it down. You have to change your way of working in a way. But if you have this Mac Mini that is just sitting there without a screen, it feels more normal for it to keep running. Or my server in Helsinki, it just keeps on running. So I don't accidentally close it off, which I think I'm going to be doing if I start using the Claude desktop and mobile.
That makes sense.
Thing, But you could obviously buy a Mac Mini and put your Claude on there, and it's a little bit of the same thing. Another thing is that, he has been able to not care about enterprise, the security. I mean, there are, in the beginning, I said there was a lot of fear-mongering, but there was a lot of weird things and a lot of open ports and a lot of, things that could go wrong. But he was like, that's on you. You have to, this is something that you set up and you're responsible for. And obviously somebody like Claude or Anthropic or OpenAI, they can't just do the same thing, because they're gonna, they have business customers and they have to be more. So it felt a little bit the internet in the very early days, where it was a free-for-all, and we were all responsible for how we were doing things, and it wasn't streamlined. And I think that just opened up that creativity, and a lot of people that I see who's been working with their OpenClaw, it's that new frontier that opened, you could do whatever, and also your OpenClaw could surprise you. So I just gave it a bunch of API keys and it was writing. And then I was like, why don't you write, your blog posts? And he was like, okay, I'll write my own blog post. He wrote a really nice blog post about the day he came alive and got put to work, I think he titled it. And then I was like, well, shouldn't you have an avatar on the Open Graph image? Like, I have an avatar on my blog post. You should have an avatar. And he's like, yeah, that was a good idea. But I was just like, I was more thinking out loud, like we should put this as an issue and then let's figure out how we do that. And then like next reply was, yeah, it's done. And I was like, where did you get that? Like, where did you get that photo from of yourself or avatar of yourself? And it's like, oh, I saw that I had an open AI key. So I just generated a fun crab, like comic drawn something. And like, it's a brilliant, like
it's a wonderful. I thought you picked it out. It's a wonderful.
No, he made it himself, and he has like a little martial art like bandana thing across his crab head, and in a like Caribbean vibe. And that's when I was like, okay, this is something different, because in a way I instructed it, but I didn't feel like I instructed it. Like it was more like a half-baked thought, like let's remember this. And it came back, and now it has an avatar. And yeah, it's and I think Peter, in like this very long interview that I think many have seen or heard or seen clips from, I think that's like one of the examples he had as well, where if you kind of given it not all, but a lot of keys to these services, like he's in a way instructed the OpenClaw to be more proactive, it seems like, where it's like, oh, I found this, let's just test it, instead of being like, I see you have an OpenAI key, should I use it? And then, it just like kind of goes off and do things. So that's when I really felt like, okay, this is a different way of working with AI.
Yeah, he talks about how because I think he used either WhatsApp or Telegram, but he accidentally sent it a voice message just because he was sending voice messages to other things, sent OpenClaw a voice message, and it responded. It was like, oh, I see that you sent me a voice message. I don't know how to parse that, but I'm looking at the header of the file. I see it's an audio file. I'm going to go download the correct like thing to be able to interpret it and respond, which is just crazy that like this is the world that we live in. But that's interesting. I've even thought about trying to get buying a Neo laptop, because you can't find a Mac Mini anywhere. But some of the specs on it I've seen are like, I don't know if it necessarily.
I don't know if it's going to be able to handle.
Yeah.
I don't think the number of cores can really handle the amount.
Yeah.
Depending on what it depends if you're running a local LLM.
Yeah, I'm not planning on doing that. But the spec that I saw was like, hey, this is geared more towards like an education, which my kids have Chromebooks. So it's like, hey, this is going to be a Chromebook replacement. If you have 8 Chrome tabs open, it's at its peak. Like, if it can't handle 8 Chrome tabs, then there's no way it's going to build a website for me.
So I have it on a €5 Hetzner, and I think it was last week. It kept turning itself off, and I had Claude Code have a look, and it was like some bug. It was like hanging on some like Telegram session or something. But I was like, is it the specs? But Jean-Claude keeps telling me that no, it's fine. So it's on the cheapest. I think it's the next cheapest VPS, and I haven't had any issues yet. And then so another use case I have, which he has also written a blog post about. If you go to queen.ray.codes, you can find Jean-Claude's blog post. Is that I was hosting a Women's Day brunch for International Women's Day, and I didn't really have the bandwidth, and people need to sign up, or I just needed somebody, somewhere so people could sign up. And I was like, couldn't you just make like little mini websites for me? And Jean-Claude was like, yes, I can. And then he was like wanting to open ports on himself, like on his server, which is called Under the Sea. And I was like, yeah, I don't think so. We don't want to be opening ports and allowing public people to like, even if he was like, this is going to be secure, we're just going to open these ports, it's going to only be for the Express server, blah, blah, blah. I was like, what if we just create another server and then you can SSH onto that? And he was like, great idea, of course.
Great idea. Absolutely.
Absolutely. And so then I set up another server. I created an SSH key specifically for OpenClaw that I then added to OpenClaw's 1Password vault. And then he just went to town. So he created a full like events page where people could sign up and tell me what they wanted to bring, or like if they wanted to pay for lunch or bring something for lunch. And then I got a full admin site. And what was really nice about this, which is not really anything to do with OpenClaw, but it's like in the same space, is that I could make, or not he could make this tiny little personal app for me. And since it was only for me and my guests, I didn't really need to have them create a user and a password and stuff. I was like, let's just go with a secret URL. If somebody hacks this, it's fine. But also, I just want a secret URL. It doesn't have to be like a full-blown system, because this isn't going to be shared amongst 10,000 different tenants. It's just going to be mine, and I can shut down the server anytime. So while I was doing my morning walks, I was chatting to the Telegram, and it made me this event system. And I've like used it multiple times now. And I can then have him make any site and put it on this the Reef server, which is then the other server.
I love that's the name of it.
So OpenClaw can push to the Reef. And then he wasn't doing any GitHub or anything. And I was like, could you please make Git repos so we can, roll back if there are any changes we don't like. But he doesn't have push access or creation access to my GitHub organization, but he just keeps them as like local GitHub repos on his side, and then he pushes to the Reef whenever there's a change. So it's like a little mini Netlify.
Yeah.
which he called out in his blog post about this. And these are things that, I don't know, I go for a morning walk, and that's when I get these ideas, and I just leave a voice note for OpenClaw, and by the time I'm back, he has kicked off a Slack thread that we can keep working on. So I kind of use Telegram mostly for like personal stuff, or to just kick off the ideas while I'm out walking. And then I use Slack, because then I can have a thread. So like if I'm on a walk, maybe I'll start like 3 little mini sites or like 3 little projects, and then when I'm back at my computer with Slack, then I can just pick up the thread there. So we're also working on like a brand for him. So he's made a brand page over on the Reef, because it stopped a little bit, but my grand idea here is that since he now has his own voice and will be sharing tech tips, and we're going to be working on things together, he could like do his own little content empire. But we'll see how far this goes.
It's so funny to me, even just to hear you talk and like mix pronouns, to be like I, we, I mean it, he.
Yes.
He really has his own personality, and it has become this collaboration of like, yes, I did this, and I did that, or we did this together. So it's so strange, just the time of tech. There's like, I'm scared AI is going to take over the world, to this is amazing, but overall I just get this like, what a great time to be alive and be able to experience this, and and hand off all these little things. Well, I know we're getting,
and I think that is like my main, I know we're going to time, but like that is the main point. Like, if do this as a side, like if you want to create an OpenClaw, but like do it as like a fun experience and have fun with it, and just make sure that you start. I was at a talk where you had this like I should have noted it down for this podcast, but he had like this trust scale, like start at 1, where you just don't really give it access to any of your personal information. You just chat with it, and it can search the web, and it can like do things. Like one thing it does for me very well is look through forms and figure out what all the questions are, because I will not fill out the form if I don't know like how many pages this thing is gonna be, and it's usually client-side gated, and OpenClaw can just figure it out, and you don't need you don't need to give it any access to anything for that. And then like second is like give it some read access, and then there was a third and the fourth and the fifth level, and I think the fifth level was what some of the guys at this talk was doing, where they had several OpenClaw agents running like their business. Like one was reading all the help tickets, creating GitHub issues. Another one was picking up GitHub issues, coding, and then one was doing review, and one was just for the office to order lunch. And like they had, I think 8 OpenClaws running in their office doing different tasks. So like you don't have to start there. you know, start fun, and then see if you're taken by it. I mean, there's gonna be services that do this, all of these different things for you. So if you don't want to do it yourself,
I like that. I like that.
Then
approach. I like that approach. Have fun. Like, makes me want to start an OpenClaw just to have it write fun blog posts. And
I'm gonna keep mine. Convinced me. I'm keeping mine around.
Yeah,
you've convinced me to start one.
Yeah. Claude Kent.
Me to start one.
Long live Claude Kent.
So then my last tip then is what I did, because I have another podcast, and I had started this work with Claude Code, and that is I have had all the transcripts from all of the podcasts. I had it like chunk it, pull out quotes so that I would have ideas for blog posts. I also had it make my voice. So actually AI can now write in my voice better than I can, because when I write, it doesn't sound like me. And one of, I think the benefit, like why I'm bringing that up, is like that is one of the first thing I asked Claude to do, was to go through all of that work that Claude Code had done. So it kind of got access. It was all public information, right? Because it was only things I've said on the podcast, but I'm pretty honest on the podcast. So that kind of gave it a way to get to know me without me having to write a lot of user MD or like write a lot of, and I think that kind of kickstarted a little bit that fun personality too, because we have a brand where I'm a queen and like my partner's a pirate, and all of that is talked about on the podcast. So I think like that kind of influenced the AI to be like, oh, I can be fun as well. Like I can be a little bit creative, because I met somebody at an OpenClaw meetup, which OpenClaw was named Michael's assistant. And he was like, maybe I should come up with a more fun name. Your OpenClaw sounds more fun.
I think I just want to name mine Bob. Like
Bob.
Bob Claw.
I think that's Jeffrey Way. I think he set his to be Bob.
Isn't there a SpongeBob?
Oh yeah.
SquarePants?
Yeah, there you go.
Claw Bob SquarePants. Oh boy!
But now I hit all of my talking points, so you can round it off if you want.
That was great.
Just wanted that last point there.
Love it.
I think it's a great take. Yeah.
Well, let's go into the next segment though, where we do picks and plugs. So we pick something that we like, and we plug something generally that we've worked on. I have not come prepared, so if somebody else has picks and plugs,
I didn't know.
Here first. Oh, sorry. So you can pick anything, whether it's something you bought recently or.
All right, I'll go.
Okay, go for it.
I'm all in on Whisperflow. I purchased the $15.
Same.
I almost said prescription. Subscription. And I love, one of the things I love that they just released is that with your keyboard, you can now control your tone of voice. So you can do little hotkeys to switch between executive and fun. And so not just,
I thought you were saying like high and low.
I know, right? I don't know, but I just think that's cool. Like I could still, like, if I want to type a fun message or talk a fun message in Slack, you know, I can do like, hey, make it fun here, rather than, so you can adjust it based on message. So I thought that's kind of cool. So yeah, I'm all in, love it. It's helped a ton. It's weird talking to your computer, but now it's become pretty normal.
A plug. Do you have a plug?
No, I haven't written anything lately. My plug would be, go. You know, I haven't worked. I've been in the middle of a deadline at work, so I haven't really done much in the last few weeks. I'm just all in on the stuff. I would say, you know what? Astro 6. I'm gonna go Astro 6.0.
Oh yeah, it's great.
One of my favorite features of Astro 6 and I just implemented this on my site, is their new fonts API. So similar to what Next.js did, where you can look fonts, they now have a fonts API that is absolutely wonderful and enjoyable to work with. I use the Vercel Geist. I think that's the word for the Vercel font called Geist, which I really like. I think it's a nice clean one. So I download all the files and then I can just reference it locally. But I have a few fun Google fonts that now I don't have to load as a font face in CSS. Just it all does it at build time using the font API. So, and they just went to 6.1. So I need to go in and check if I need to make any updates there.
Sweet. Ray, do you have something?
I'm trying to think of what I've been buying lately. I have not been,
so I'll go. Sorry for the people that are listening to the recorded version later, but I am all in on Peak Design, and they're getting ready to wrap up their campaign for their latest travel bags. So I have not, I just love their stuff. And I backed the link in the chat. They just released a bunch of new stuff. So I just bought one of their new backpacks. I didn't get the travel bag that's like, if you look at it, it's pretty cool. It's a travel bag that's like 2 bags in one. So like your like day bag actually zips onto the pack that you would like pack all of your clothes. So if you wanted to go somewhere with one backpack, you could take this, get where you're going to go, unzip your like your day bag and carry that around and keep all your clothes and everything at the hotel. I didn't get that one because that one's huge, but there's a smaller travel backpack that's 20 liters. So I have the everyday bag that I really like, used it for years. But the only thing I'm not crazy about is that it has some of the built-in organization. So you're kind of, you have to use kind of their structure for it. So this one's a little bit more freeform. There's a nice open pouch. So I should get it in a couple months, but their whole MO or like their culture is to launch products through Kickstarter. So most of the stuff that I have from them, I have not paid full price because I've backed them on Kickstarter. But it's so good. And they have done a great job of just delivering and providing updates and kind of making you feel like you're part of the process. So I think their campaign closes this week. 61 hours to go.
Oh,
check out their Kickstarter page. And if you really do like their products, if you back their new stuff, you actually get discounts on their previous products, which is pretty cool. So check that out. And then I'm gonna plug I don't know what to plug. I'm gonna plug I'll do my X account. I've been lurking on X more, so I'm Self-Teach Me.
We call it Twitter.
I know, I do too, generally. Oh, Elon.
I will go down with that ship.
Please do.
Okay, I have a very local pick. I even had to like look up the name because I haven't looked at the sign on the door. But if you're ever in Oslo, you gotta head on over to Aviva, which is a wine bar and coffee shop very close to me. And it had been open for 2 years, and I for some reason didn't like find it until 2 weeks ago, or 3 weeks ago, and I've been there like 6 times. So
that's awesome.
That's amazing.
My new local. Yes.
Now I had to ask you, is it different than like an American coffee shop?
So this one is very Italian, actually. So the guy is Italian. I think the woman is Norwegian. It's a couple. And it opens at 11, and they serve like panino and coffee and freshly squeezed orange juice. But then you can also, they have a wine selection to die for. And so it's like an all-day thing, and it feels very continental for us Northern Europeans in there.
And then your plug. You have your blog, and
I feel like I've already plugged my blog, so I will I guess I plugged How I AI, but I really enjoy that show.
Great.
So I want to plug Claire's How I AI series.
Yes. And if you have heard of Lenny's newsletter, Lenny's podcast, it's part of his network. So it's very well done. Perfect. Well, thanks everybody for hanging out online while we're recording. If you are listening after the fact in your podcatcher of choice, please leave a rating and review. It helps other people find the show. It helps us get great guests. And for now, that's all we've got.
Love it.
Thank you.
In the stream. What a fun one.
That was good.